hello. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? I'm gonna try to speak softly. So this is my first attempt at ASMR, so let me know if the audio bubbles are okay. Hi, hi. Welcome, welcome. I'm a little too soft. Is that better? I think I turned deaf. It sounds better now? Okay. Good. Alright. Welcome to my abode. Get cozy by the fire. I have some tales to tell you tonight. Yes. I have a couple books I found that have some really interesting stories, and I wanted to share some of them with you today. Yes. I want to share some of these stories with you, so I hope you're all comfortable. Let's see. The first story I'm going to tell you today I have to find it. I should have bookmarked these. I should have bookmarked the stories I wanted to tell. Hold on. Okay. Alright. The first story I'm going to tell you today is called Molly Whoopie. Molly Whoopie. Isn't that an interesting name? Alright, so once upon a time, there were 3 sisters. 2 of the sisters were tall, beautiful girls, but the youngest was small and mischievous. Her name was Molly Whoopie. One dark night, the 3 sisters got lost in a wood, and they had to knock on the door of a strange house to ask for shelter. "Come you in," said the woman who answered the door. "Sit down." And she made her own 3 daughters get down from the table. And then she fed Molly and her sisters until their bellies were stretched tight. Now, the woman's husband was a giant, and when he came home, he said, "I smell the blood of English lasses." "There are 3, his wife told him. "They'll sleep with ours tonight." But before they all went to bed, the giant called his 3 daughters to him and tied a soft silken ribbon around each of their necks. Around the necks of Molly and her sisters, he tied harsh ropes of straw. Then his wife took all 6 into the next room and tucked them into a big bed. here we see the three sisters, the three giant sisters with straw. Oh, hold on. They soon slept except Molly Whoopie. From the next room, she heard the giant say, "Light the fire, wife. Make the oven hot. I shall kill the geese." Quick as a flash, Molly took the silken ribbons from the necks of the giant's daughters and tied them around her own and her sisters' necks. The harsh straw rope she tied around the necks of the three young giantesses. The door of the bedroom creaked, and then it opened, and in tiptoed the giant. He came to the bed and, in the darkness, felt for the girls' necks. Each time he felt a rough straw rope, he lifted that girl out of the bed and laid her on the floor. But the girls wearing silken ribbons he left in the bed, thinking they were his daughters. Then he picked up the three girls on the floor, ran outside, and threw them into a deep chasm. "Come down. I'll fetch these fat geese for the oven," growled the giant. As soon as the giant had gone, Molly woke up her sisters, and they climbed out the window and ran away. They ran until they came to the deep chasm, and the only bridge across was the edge of a sharp sword blade. "We'll be cut to pieces," said the two sisters. But Molly said, "Run lightly and have courage," and she led her sisters across. On the other side was the king's palace, and they went there and told him their tale. "You have done well, Molly Whoopie," said the king, "but you can do better. Did you see the giant's bow?" "It hung on the wall behind his chair," said Molly Whoopie. "An arrow from that bow never misses," said the king. "Steal it for me, and I'll marry my eldest son to your eldest sister, and she'll never want for anything again." "Done," said Molly, and she washed her face, changed her clothes, and combed her hair so that she looked unlike herself. Then, although her sisters begged her not to go, she ran lightly across Sword Bridge and into the forest. Man, can you guys imagine trying to go over the sword bridge? I don't think I could do it. I think I would I'm pretty sure I would be cut into pieces if I tried to climb over this bridge. Molly Whoopie is really small. She's tiny. Watch her step, yes, exactly. Watch her step. It was already dark when she got to the giant's house. "You can transform and fly over, Yu. I have wings. Do we all have wings?" Need to take a leap of faith, a giant leap, yeah. If you have enough momentum, you can probably leap across it. It looks kind of narrow, actually. It looks pretty narrow. Alright, so Molly Whoopie goes to the giant's house. The giant's house didn't know her, but let her in. The giant was at the table, counting gold from a purse. Behind him hung the beautiful bow. Molly sat by the fire until the giant's wife went to make her bed. She saw the giant hide his purse and under his pillow before he went to get more logs for the fire. Quick as a flash, Molly snatched the bow from the wall and ran from the house. But the bow shouted out, "Help, help!" And the giant heard. Molly ran, and the giant ran after, knocking down trees as he went. But Molly reached Swordbridge first and lightly crossed it. The giant was afraid to follow, the bridge being so sharp and him so heavy. "Pain to you, Molly Whoopie. Never come again." "Twice more," she said. "Twice more." She gave the bow to the king, and her eldest sister was married to the eldest prince, and the wedding feast lasted 3 weeks. When it was over, the king said, "You have done well, Molly Whoopie, but you can do better. Did you see the giant's purse? He hides it under his pillow. That purse is never empty. Steal it for me, and I'll marry your second sister to my second son." "Done," said Molly Whoopie, and she changed her clothes and brushed her hair so that she looked unlike herself. Then, although her sisters wept, she ran lightly across Swordbridge and into the forest. When she knocked at the giant's door, the giant's wife still didn't know her. "Come in," she said, "but be quiet. My man's in bed with a bad head." Oh my goodness. This giant's wife never recognizes Molly. And the only thing Molly changes are her clothes and her hair. That's crazy. That's crazy. Doesn't this king have anybody better to send into a dangerous situation? I know. I know, right? You can only rely on a little girl. All the while Molly sat by the fire, the giant snored like a log. She sat until the giant's wife went out to shut up the hens, and then she crept over to the bed. Gently, gently, she slipped her hand under his pillow, under her fingers, until her fingers found the purse. Gently, gently, she pulled it out and made for the door. But all the coins in the purse cried out, "Help, help!" Up the giant woke, and up he sat, and he let a great roar out of him. But Molly Whoopie was already running, and she ran and ran. The giant came after her in his nightshirt, trampling bushes and knocking down trees. But Molly Whoopie reached Swordbridge first and ran lightly across, and the giant was afraid to follow. "Death to you, Molly Whoopie. Never come again." "Once more," she said. "Once more." She gave the purse to the king, and her second sister was married to the second prince, and the wedding feast lasted for 2 weeks. When the feast was over, the king turned to Molly once more and said, "You have done well, Molly Whoopie, but you can do better. Does the giant wear a ring? It's never off his finger. That ring gives him long life. Steal it for me, and I'll marry you to my youngest son." "Done," said Molly Whoopie, and she braided her hair and changed her clothes so that she looked unlike herself. Then, although both sisters wept and begged her not to, she ran lightly across Swordbridge and into the forest. The giant's wife didn't know her and let her in when she knocked. The giant's wife is so silly. The giant's wife is so silly. How can she not know her? How can she not know her? "But be quiet," she said. "My poor man's had so much trouble, he's gone to bed early." "Hi, Ghosty. Welcome to the stream." Welcome, welcome. So Molly sat by the fire, but when the giant's wife stepped out for a moment, she upped from her stool and crept to the bed. Gently, gently, she reached under the covers and found the giant's hand. Gently, gently, she felt for the ring. She slid it from his finger, but the giant woke up and gripped her little hand in his big one and yelled, "Got you!" In came the wife running. "I know you, Molly Whoopie," said the giant. "Now, Molly Whoopie, if I had done as much wrong to you as you've done to me, how would you pay me back?" "I'd tie you in a sack, and then I'd cut a thick club and beat your bones with it," said Molly Whoopie. "And that's what I'll do to you," said the giant, and he tied her in a sack and left her by the hearth while he went into the forest to cut a club. The giant's wife sat by the fire laughing until she heard Molly Whoopie call, "Oh, if you could see what I can see! Oh, what I can see!" "What can you see?" "Oh, if only you could see!" "Here, let me see," said the giant's wife. And she unfastened the sack, shook Molly Whoopie out, and got in herself. Quick as a flash, Molly tied up the sack and hid behind the door. "I don't see anything," said the giant's wife. Just then, in came the giant with half a tree as a club, and he thumped the sack, shouting, "That's for my daughters! That for my bow! And that for my purse!" He was shouting so much that he never noticed it was his wife's voice crying out from the sack. Molly Whoopie slipped from behind the door and ran. When the sack stopped moving, the giant opened it and found his wife dead. Roaring with rage, he picked up his club and started after Molly Whoopie. But she was already across Sword Bridge and thumbing her nose at him. The giant was so angry that he ran across the bridge to get her, but he trod too heavily, and the sword blade cut him into pieces, which fell into the chasm, and that was the end of the giant. Molly Whoopie climbed down into the chasm and took the ring off the giant's finger. She gave it to the king and was married to the youngest prince, and she never wanted for anything else. Now, pick the bones out of that. That is Molly Whoopie. Isn't that such a crazy story? Damn, Molly killed this guy's whole family. Yeah, she literally massacred them all. She whopped him. She sure did. Actually, I feel really bad for the giant. What did he ever do to Molly? What did he ever do to Molly Whoopie for her to do that to him? Poor giant. I feel a bit sad for the giant. Yes, me too. Hi, Inky. Hi. Welcome to the stream. Soft-spoken violence. Yes, this is the exact thing you need to relax, indeed. Molly later became the Queen of Evil. This is her origin story. I remember when I first read this when I was younger, I used to not think anything of the giant. But now that I'm reading it again and I'm older, I just feel a bit sorry for him. Molly gonna kill the king next for putting her through all that? Alright, let's see what the next the next story. Okay. Molly, you did good, but you can do better. What a typical perfectionist parent. First time I've heard the story, yeah. I'm picking, most of the stories I'm picking are probably ones you haven't heard of yet. Except for maybe one. These are curious tales after all. Very curious tales. Okay, let's see. The next story. Alright, let me gonna open the second book. The second book. Uh-oh. Did you guys hear the car? Right when I'm doing like a ASMR type stream, there's like a loud car outside. Alright, it's on page 116. 116. Oh, you didn't hear the car? Great. Alright, perfect. That's what I like to hear. Alright, so the first story, or the second story I'll tell you guys today is called Petronella. Petronella. In the kingdom of Skyclear Mountain, 3 princes were always born to the king and queen. The oldest prince was always called Michael, the middle prince was always called George, and the youngest was always called Peter. When they were grown, they always went out to seek their fortunes. What happened to the oldest prince and the middle prince no one ever knew, but the youngest prince always rescued a princess, brought her home, and in time ruled over the kingdom. That was the way it had always been. But so far, as anyone knew, that was the way it would always be. Until now. Now was the time of King Peter the 26th and Queen Blossom. An oldest prince was born and a middle prince, but the youngest prince turned out to be a girl. Well, said the king gloomily, we can't call her Peter. We'll have to call her Petronella. And what's to be done about it? I'm sure I don't know. There was nothing to be done. The years passed, and the time came for the princes to go out and seek their fortunes. Michael and George said goodbye to the king and queen and mounted their horses. Then, out came Petronella. Isn't she cute? Petronella! What a cutie! She was dressed in traveling clothes with her bag packed and a sword by her side. If you think, she said, that I'm going to sit at home, you are mistaken. I'm going to seek my fortune too. Impossible, said the king. What will people say? Cried the queen. Look, said Prince Michael, be reasonable, pet. Stay home. Sooner or later, a prince will turn up here. Petronella smiled. She was a tall, handsome girl with flaming red hair and when she smiled in that particular way, it meant she was trying to keep her temper. "I'm going with you," she said. "I'll find a prince if I have to rescue one from something myself, and that's that." The grooms brought out her horse. She said goodbye to her parents, and away she went behind her two brothers. I believe they call that hashtag girl bossing nowadays. Petronella is a queen, a girl boss before her times, before the times. They traveled into the flatlands behind Skyclear Mountain. After many days, they entered a great dark forest. They came to a place where the road divided into three, and there, at the fork, sat a little wrinkled old man covered with dust and spider webs. Michael said haughtily, "Where do these roads go, old man?" "The road on the right goes to the city of Gratz," the man replied. "The road in the center goes to the castle of Blitz. The road on the left goes to the house of Albion the Enchanter, and that's one." "What do you mean by 'and that's one'?" asked Prince George. "I mean," said the old man, "that I am forced to sit on the spot without stirring, and that I must answer one question from each person who passes by, and that's two." Petronella's kind heart was touched. "Is there anything I can do to help you?" she asked. The old man sprang to his feet. The dust fell from him in clouds. "You have already done so," he said, "for that question is the one which releases me. I have sat here for 62 years waiting for someone to ask me that." He snapped his fingers with joy. "In return, I will tell you anything you wish to know." "Where can I find a prince?" Petronella said promptly. "There is one in the house of Albion the Enchanter," the old man answered. "Ah," said Petronella, "then that is where I am going." "In that case, I will leave you," said her oldest brother. "For I am going to the castle of Blitz to see if I can find my fortune there." "Good luck," said Prince George, "for I am going to the city of Gratz. I have a feeling my fortune is there." They embraced her and rode away. Petronella looked thoughtfully at the old man who was combing spider webs and dust out of his beard. "May I ask you something else?" she said. "Of course, anything." "Suppose I wanted to rescue that prince from the enchanter. How would I go about it? I haven't any experience in such things, you see." The old man chewed a piece of his beard. "I don't know everything," he said after a moment. "I know that there are 3 magical secrets which, if you can get from him, will help you." "How can I get them?" asked Petronella. "Offer to work for him. He will set you 3 tasks, and if you do them, you may demand a reward for each. You must ask him for a comb for your hair, a mirror to look into, and a ring for your finger." "And then?" "I do not know. I only know that when you rescue the prince, you can use these things to escape from the enchanter." "It doesn't sound too easy," sighed Petronella. "Nothing we really want is easy," said the old man. "Look at me. I've wanted my freedom, and I've had to wait 62 years for it." Old man dropping some facts, some wisdom. Nothing we really want comes easy. I'll be on the branded dragon. Hi, Thick Skin. Hi, Dance with Dragon. Welcome, welcome. Speaking of nothing we really want is easy. I kind of diverging from the story now. I have like a tangent I want to talk about. I think it's really interesting how these days I think a lot of us struggle with instant gratification and dopamine, right? To the point where, like, delayed gratification is when it's like the good kind of gratification, usually, right? When you do something hard, you put in the hard work, it doesn't feel that good at the beginning, but you reap the benefits later. However, a lot of us nowadays, myself included, we prefer the instant gratification instead. Kind of like how instead of going out and, doing things that might be good for me, I will stay at home and go on my phone instead, right? Browse social media, watch YouTube. You say as these chocolate wafers stare at me for instant gratification. You should have some. I'm an enableist though. Problem is delayed often means not guaranteed. Problem delayed often means not guaranteed. You'd think that as humans we would have evolved into a species where we prefer delayed gratification over instant gratification, but alas, back in the day we probably didn't have instant gratification, so we never needed to evolve and address that kind of issue. Hi Joshua, Kitsune, welcome. A lot of technology makes most things instant nowadays. I know. It's so dangerous. Some days I'm like a little bit scared that I'm gonna turn into, those the people in Wall-E that kind of just like sit every day and like they never lift a finger to do anything. I feel like that's what we're gonna become. It might actually come true. The deeper kind of gratification comes with a longer journey towards it. Yes, delayed gratification feels more deserved. Delayed gratification is almost always better than instant gratification, I think. Almost always better. But I do think instant gratification is good because it makes life more fun, right? We wouldn't want to live a life where the only thing we could do is work hard and not have something to look forward to each day. Anyway, that was just my ramble. I've been thinking about it because I think I struggle a little bit too with not doing things that I know are good for me. Like, How much time do you guys spend on social media? I feel like I spend a really embarrassing amount, like hours of my day. And that's like, there's probably better things to do with my time, right? Yeah. A balance of living in the present and working towards the future is worth aiming for. Yes, we gotta have a balance. Gotta have the balance. Hello, metal chip. Hello. When membership unlocks, I'll be great. Delayed gratification. I certainly will feel quite gratified, I must say. Oh, I'm gonna move this. Okay. Alright. Let's continue our story. I have too much time on my hands, so I spent a lot of time on YouTube and Twitter. Yeah, that's how I feel too. You met someone that spent 8 hours on TikTok daily? Oh gosh. I do worry for our brains. 8 hours on TikTok. What does the brain become? That's scary. Yeah, that's very scary. At some point, that kind of content just... It can't be that interesting to be on TikTok for 8 hours, right? Can it? Okay. Those are rookie numbers. No way. No way. Alright. I spend so much time on the PC for work, I try to avoid it after I get home. Good, that's a good thing. That's a good habit to have. Oh no, but you're on the PC now. You're on the PC now. Alright. So, where did we leave off in our story? Okay. We left off when Petronella is going to go to Albion the Enchanter's house to rescue the prince who's there, and she has to work for him and work 3 times and request a magic item after each time. Alright. Petronella mounted her horse and galloped along the 3rd road. It ended at a low, rambling house with a red roof. It was a comfortable-looking house, surrounded by gardens and stables with trees heavy with fruit. Oh my gosh, that sounds like such a lovely house. Can you guys imagine what your ideal house would be? Your house of dreams? What would your house of dreams look like? I've always imagined my house to be maybe somewhere beautiful, like on the rolling hills of Tuscany, where I can look at beautiful sunsets and sunrises every day. I can see the seasons changing, be surrounded by nature. On the lawn, in an armchair, sat a handsome young man with his eyes closed and his face turned to the sky. Petronella tied her horse to the gate and walked across the lawn. "Is this the house of Albion the Enchanter?" she said. The young man blinked up at her in surprise. "I think so," he said. "Yes, I'm sure it is." "And who are you?" The young man yawned and stretched. "I am Prince Ferdinand of Firebright," he replied. "Would you mind stepping aside? I'm trying to get a suntan, and you're standing in the way." Petronella snorted. "You don't sound much like a prince," she said. "That's funny," said the young man, closing his eyes. That's what my father always says. At that moment, the door of the house opened. Out came a man all dressed in black and silver. He was tall and thin, and his eyes were as black as a cloud full of thunder. Petronella knew at once that he must be the enchanter. He bowed to her politely. "What can I do for you?" "I wish to work for you," said Petronella boldly. Albion nodded. "I cannot refuse you," he said, "but I warn you, it will be dangerous. Tonight I will give you a task. If you do it, I will reward you. If you fail, you must die." Petronella glanced at the prince and sighed. "If I must, I must," she said. "Very well." That evening, they all had dinner together in the enchanter's cozy kitchen. Then Albion took Petronella out to a stone building and unbolted its door. Inside were 7 huge black dogs. "You must watch my hounds all night," said he. Petronella went in, and Albion closed and locked the door. At once, the hounds began to snarl and bark. They bared their teeth at her. But Petronella was a real princess. She plucked up her courage. Instead of backing away, she went toward the dogs. She began to speak to them in a quiet voice. They stopped snarling and sniffed at her. She patted their heads. "I see what it is," she said. "You're lonely here. I'll keep you company." And so all night long, she sat on the floor and talked to the hounds and stroked them. They lay close to her. In the morning, Albion came and let her out. "Ah," said he, "I see that you are brave. If you had run from the dogs, they would have torn you to pieces. Now, you may ask me for what you want." "I want a comb for my hair," said Petronella. "Oh, these are the dogs." "These are the dogs. Doggos." And that's the enchanter. Quite a stately looking fellow, isn't he? The enchanter gave her a comb carved from a piece of black wood. Prince Ferdinand was sunning himself and working at a crossword puzzle. Petronella said to him in a low voice, "I'm doing this for you." "That's nice," said the prince. "What's selfish in 9 letters?" "You are," snapped Petronella. I like Petronella, she's quite spunky. She went to the enchanter. "I will work for you once more," she said. Nice hat, yeah. That's a drip if I've ever seen one. He's decked out. That night, Albion led her to a stable. Inside were 7 huge horses. "Tonight," he said, "you must watch my steeds." He went out and locked the door. At once, the horses began to rear and neigh. They pawed at her with their iron hooves. But Petronella was a real princess. She looked closely at them and saw that their coats were rough and their manes and tails full of burrs. "I see what it is," she said. "You're hungry and dirty." She brought them as much hay as they could eat and began to brush them. All night long she fed them and groomed them, and they stood quietly in their stalls. In the morning, Albion let her out. "You are as kind as you're brave," said he. "If you had run from them, they would have trampled you under their hooves. What will you have as a reward?" "I want a mirror to look into," said Petronella. The enchanter gave her a mirror made of silver. She looked across the lawn at Prince Ferdinand. He was doing exercises leisurely. He was certainly handsome. She said to the enchanter, "I will work for you once more." That night, Albion led her to a loft above the stables. There on perches were 7 great hawks. "Tonight," said he, "you must watch my falcons." As soon as Petronella was locked in, the hawks began to beat their wings and scream at her. The hawks. Petronella laughed. "That is not how birds sing," she said. "Listen." She began to sing in a sweet voice. The hawks fell silent. All night long she sang to them, and they sat like feathered statues on their perches, listening. In the morning, Albion said, "You are as talented as you are kind and brave. If you had run from them, they would have pecked and clawed you without mercy. What do you want now?" "I want a ring for my finger," said Petronella. The enchanter gave her a ring made from a single diamond. All that day and all that night Petronella slept, for she was very tired. But early the next morning she crept into Prince Ferdinand's room. He was sound asleep, wearing purple pajamas. "Wake up," whispered Petronella. "I'm going to rescue you." Ferdinand woke and stared sleepily at her. "What time is it?" "Never mind that," said Petronella. "Come on." "But I'm so sleepy," Ferdinand objected. My throat. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, alright. Could you sing a soft lullaby? What lullabies do I know? Rockabye baby. Wait, I don't even know how the end of that goes. Rockabye baby? What's the lyric after that? The enchanter needs an animal tamer in his kingdom. Alright, so Petronella had just snuck into Prince Ferdinand's room and told him she was going to rescue him. Ferdinand awoke and stared sleepily at her. "What time is it?" "Never mind that," said Petronella. "Come on." "But I'm so sleepy," Ferdinand objected, "and it's so pleasant here." Petronella shook her head. "You're not much of a prince," she said grimly, "but you're the best I can do." She grabbed him by the wrist and dragged him out of bed. She hauled him down the stairs. His horse and hers were in a separate stable, and she saddled them quickly. She gave the prince a shove, and he mounted. She jumped on her own horse, seized the prince's reins, and away they went like the wind. They had not gone far when they heard a tremendous thumping. Petronella looked back. A dark cloud arose behind them, and beneath it she saw the enchanter. He was running with great strides, faster than the horses could go. "What shall we do?" she cried. "Don't ask me," said Prince Ferdinand grumpily. "I'm all shaken to bits by this fast riding." The Prince Ferdinand is a bit of a grouch, huh? Petronella desperately pulled out the comb. "The old man said this would help me," she said, and because she didn't know what else to do with it, she threw the comb on the ground. At once, a forest rose up. The trees were so thick that no one could get between them. Away went Petronella and the prince, but the enchanter turned himself into an axe and began to chop. Right and left he chopped, slashing, and the trees fell before him. Soon as he was through the wood, and once again, Petronella heard his footsteps thumping behind. She reined in the horses. She took out the mirror and threw it on the ground. At once, a wide lake spread out, spread out behind them, great and glittering. Off they went again, but the enchanter sprang into the water, turning himself into a salmon as he did so. He swam across the lake and leapt out of the water on the other bank. Petronella heard him coming, thump, thump, behind them. This time she threw down the ring. It didn't turn into anything, but lay shining on the ground. The enchanter came running up, but as he jumped over the ring, it opened wide and then snapped up around him. It held his arms tight to his body in a magical grip from which he could not escape. "Well," said Prince Ferdinand, "that's the end of him." Petronella looked at him in annoyance. Then she looked at the enchanter, held fast in the ring. "Oh, bother," she said. "I can't leave him here. He'll starve to death." She got off her horse and went up to him. "If I release you," she said, "will you promise to let the prince go free?" Albion stared at her in astonishment. "Let him go free," he said. "What are you talking about? I'm glad to get rid of him." It was Petronella's turn to look surprised. "I don't understand," she said. "Weren't you holding him prisoner?" "Certainly not," said Albion. "He came to visit me for a weekend, and at the end of it he said, 'It's so pleasant here. Do you mind if I stay on for another day or two?' I'm very polite, and I said, 'Of course.' He stayed on and on and on. I didn't like to be rude to a guest, and I couldn't just kick him out. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't dragged him away." But then," said Petronella, "but why did you come chasing after him this way?" "I wasn't chasing him," said the enchanter. "I was chasing you. You are just the girl I've been looking for. You're brave and kind and talented and beautiful as well." "Oh," said Petronella. "I see." Said she. "How do I get this ring off you?" "Give me a kiss." She did so. The ring vanished from around Albion and reappeared on Petronella's finger. "I don't know what my parents will say when I come home with you instead of a prince," she said. "Let's go and find out, shall we?" said the enchanter cheerfully. He mounted one horse and Petronella the other, and off they trotted, leaving Prince Ferdinand a fire bright to walk home as best as he could. And that was the tale of Petronella. Smooth enchanter. Very, very smooth. When was Petronella written? Oh, I'm actually not sure. It says Petronella was written by J. Williams. J. Williams. Left him in his jammies. I know. Where's he gonna go? How's he gonna get home? That was adorable. It's very cute. It's very cute. I remember quite enjoying this one. Quite enjoying this story. when I first read it. It's very cute. So, okay, guys, this is my first time doing like an ASMR kind of thing, right? How am I doing so far? Also, I'm like thinking about this while I'm reading the story to you, and I wonder if maybe ASMR type streams would be better with a hand cam, so you can see what I'm reading. I don't know. Cause like I have the pictures in the corner, but I'm not sure if there are enough visuals. You can let me know. You can give me feedback. Google says it was originally published in 1973. Whoa, that's an old story. That's really old. Wow. So far so good. Okay, good. I'm glad. Hand cam doesn't seem to. Oh, really? Okay. I think like most it's kind of interesting trying to do ASMR as a VTuber, because most ASMR artists are like real people, right? So you can kind of see how they interact with like the pages of a book, you know. You can see them like circling words with their finger. So I think that is like a different kind of stimulation that VTubers can't really provide, because, you know, we don't have a camera. You have the right atmosphere with the music? Okay, good. You could also read creepypastas? ASMR style? Oh gosh. I would get scared. I would get scared reading it. One day I'll try playing a horror game for you guys though. But just be warned, I'm very easily frightened. Okay, let's see. Crappy pasta? What's crappy pasta? VTubers do audio ASMR. Depends on the triggers, but this one's very nice. Okay. Alright, that's good. I mean, the only audio triggers I have is like when I flip through the book, or when I do like some tapping noises. Tapping noises? Hilariously bad, not creepypasta. That sounds quite interesting. I'll have to check it out. Your voice is the best trigger. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's see what story shall I read next? I'll read a shorter one that's kind of cute. I'll read a short, cute one. Read Shrek 1990. Where would I even find that? Alright. The next story is called The Pudding Like a Night on the Sea by Anne Cameron. I love this title. The Pudding Like a Night on the Sea. Isn't that so lovely? I love it. It's so pretty. Pudding like a night on the sea. Just like imagine how that would taste. this one is a bit more of like a modern story set in a modern time. I'm going to make something special for your mother, my father said. My mother was out shopping. My father was in the kitchen looking at the pots and the pans and the jars of this and that. What are you going to make? I said. A pudding, he said. My father is a big man with wild black hair. When he laughs, the sun laughs in the window panes. When he thinks, you can almost see his thoughts sitting on all the tables and chairs. When he's angry, me and my little brother, Hui, shiver to the bottom of our shoes. What kind of pudding will you make? Hui said. A wonderful pudding, my father said. It will taste like a whole raft of lemons. It will taste like a night on the sea. I'm like trying to imagine how that would taste. I feel like a night on the sea, it could potentially be salty because the sea is salty, but this is a pudding, so it has to be sweet. What do you guys think? I think a night on the sea. Maybe it tastes like really fresh. You know, like brisk, cold night air. How that would taste, maybe? It's like, oh, maybe it's like airy, yeah. Cold and salty, it makes you seasick. That's not a good pudding. Something smooth, as in the calm. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, like the texture is kind of like the sea. Yeah, I can picture it, but I can't possibly describe it. Yes, I can picture it too. I live next to the sea. Can confirm it tastes like smog. Oh my gosh, Ghosty, I'm really envious that you live next to the sea. It must be very relaxing. You can go for walks, daily walks along the shore. Alright. Then, he took down a knife and sliced 5 lemons in half. He squeezed the first one. Juice squirted in my eye. Stand back, he said, and squeezed again. The seeds flew out on the floor. Pick up those seeds, Hui, he said. Hui took the broom and swept them up. My father cracked some eggs and put the yolks in a pan and the whites in a bowl. He rolled up his sleeves and pushed back his hair and beat up the yolks. Sugar, Julian, he said, and I poured in the sugar. He went on beating. Then, he put in lemon juice and cream and set the pan on the stove. The pudding bubbled, and he stirred it fast. Cream splashed on the stove. Wipe that up, Hui, he said. Hui did. It was hot by the stove. My father loosened his collar and pushed at his sleeves. The stuff in the pan was getting thicker and thicker. He held the beater up high in the air. Just right, he said, and sniffed in the smell of the pudding. He whipped up the egg whites and mixed them into the pudding. The pudding looked softer and lighter than air. Done, he said. He washed all the pots, splashing water on the floor, and wiped the counter so fast his hair made circles around his head. I really like the picture that paints in my head. He wiped the counter so fast his hair made circles around his head. Perfect, he said. Now I'm going to take a nap. If something important happens, bother me. If nothing important happens, don't bother me. And the pudding is for your mother. Leave the pudding alone. What a messy cook. Cooking is quite a messy affair. I'm also quite a messy cook. He went to the living room and was asleep in a minute, sitting straight up in his hair. And sitting straight up in his chair, not his hair. Hui and I guarded the pudding. Oh, it's a wonderful pudding, Hui said. With waves on the top like the ocean, I said. I wonder how it tastes, Hui said. Leave the pudding alone, I said. If I just put my finger in there, I'll know how it tastes, Hui said. And he did it. You did it, I said. How does it taste? It tastes like a whole raft of lemons, he said. It tastes like a night on the sea. You've made a hole in the pudding, I said. But since you did it, I'll have a taste. And it did taste like a whole night of lemons. It tasted like floating at sea. It's such a big pudding, Hui said. It can't hurt to have a little more. Since you took more, I'll have more, I said. That was a bigger look than I took, Hui said. I'm going to have more again. Oops, I said. You put in your whole hand, Hui said. Look at the pudding you spilled on the floor. I'm going to clean it up, I said. And I took the sponge from the sink. That's not really clean, Hui said. That's the best I can do, I said. Look at the pudding, Hui said. It looked like the craters on the moon. We have to smooth it over, I said. So it looks like the way it did before. Let's get spoons. And we evened the top of the pudding with spoons. And while we evened it, we ate some more. There isn't much left, I said. We're supposed to leave the pudding alone, Hui said. We'd better get away from here, I said. We ran into our bedroom and crawled under the bed. After a long time, we heard my father's voice. Come into the kitchen, dear, he said. I have something for you. Why? What is it? My mother said, and out in the kitchen. Under the bed, Hui and I pressed ourselves to the wall. Look, said my father, out in the kitchen. A wonderful pudding. Where's the pudding? My mother said. Where are you, boys? My father said. His voice went through every crack and corner of the house. We felt like two leaves in a storm. Where are you? I said. My father's voice was booming. Hui whispered to me, I'm scared. We heard my father walking slowly through the rooms. Hui, he called. Julian. We could see his feet. He was coming into our room. He lifted the bedspread. There was his face and his eyes like black lightning. He grabbed us by the legs and pulled. Stand up, he said. We stood. What do you have to tell me? He said. We went outside, Hui said. And when we came back, the pudding was gone. Then why were you hiding under the bed? My father said. We didn't say anything. We looked at the floor. I can tell you one thing, he said. There's going to be some beating here now. There's going to be some whipping. The curtains at the window were shaking. Hui was holding my hand. Go into the kitchen, my father said. Right now. We went into the kitchen. Come here, Hui, my father said. Hui walked toward him, his hands behind his back. See these eggs? My father said. He cracked them and put the yolks in a pan and set the pan on the counter. He stood a chair by the counter. Stand up here, he said to Hui. Hui stood on the chair by the counter. Now it's time for your beating, my father said. Hui started to cry. His tears fell in with the egg yolks. Take this, my father said. My father handed him the egg beater. Now, beat those eggs, he said. I want this to be a good beating. Oh, Huey said. He stopped crying, and he beat the egg yolks. Now you, Julian, stand here, my father said. I stood on a chair by the table. I hope you're ready for your whipping. I didn't answer. I was afraid to say yes or no. Here, he said, and he set the egg whites in front of me. I want these whipped and whipped well. Yes, sir, I said, and started whipping. My father watched us. My mother came into the kitchen and watched us. After a while, Hui said, This is hard work. That's too bad, my father said. Your beating's not done. And he added sugar and cream and lemon juice to Hui's pan and put the pan on the stove. And Hui went on beating. My arm hurts from whipping, I said. That's too bad, my father said. Your whipping's not done. So I whipped, and Hui beat and beat. Hold that beater in the air, Hui, my father said. Hui held it in the air. See, my father said. A good pudding stays in the beater. It's thick enough now. Your beating's done. Then he turned to me. Let's see those egg whites, Julian, he said. They were puffed up and fluffy. Congratulations, Julian, he said. Your whipping's done. He mixed the egg whites into the pudding himself. Then he passed the pudding to my mother. A wonderful pudding, he said. Would you like some, boys? No, thank you, we said. She picked up a spoon. Why, this tastes like a whole raft of lemons, she said. This tastes like a night on the sea. And that was The Pudding Like a Night on the Sea by Anne Cameron. Very cute story. Eat the child? That was really adorable. Yeah, it's pretty cute. It's a pretty cute story. How rebellious were you guys as children? I would say I was like fairly rebellious to my parents' eyes, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, I was a pretty good kid. Not at all? Justin, you were a good kid, weren't you? I remember when I was younger, my parents used to set like a computer time, and they would only let me go on the computer for like 20 minutes a day, which is like crazy when you think about it, right? Like what can you even accomplish in 20 minutes? So obviously as a kid I felt like 20 minutes were too short, but I couldn't really figure out a way to get on the computer because only my parents knew the password to the computer, because we just had like a family computer. And then I remember so every time I wanted to have my daily computer time, I would tell my dad like, oh, I want to go on the computer now, and then he would go into the computer room and type in the password. And as a kid, I would pretend I wasn't looking. I would like look over. I would try to like sneak a peek and like collect bits of the password every time, until finally I had the password. And can you guys guess what the password was? The password to our family computer was ABC123. Yes. Oh wait, no. It was AAA111. It was AAA111. And so, after I found out that the password was AAA111, whenever my parents weren't home, I would sneak on the computer to get in some additional computer time. But, of course, my parents found out. Well, at least my dad found out that I was sneaking on the computer. So, he changed the password. And he was like more careful this time. So I couldn't really catch what the new password was. So one day, my parents were home and I turned on the computer and I tried to guess the password. So it was AAA111 before. So I decided to try BBB222 and it worked. So my dad had changed the password to BBB222. Oh yeah, you guys got it. BBB222 to add on extra difficulty, exactly. So I was able to hack into the system once more without my parents knowing. I think, I mean, that's that wasn't like exceptionally naughty, but you know. My parents only allowed me to use a computer to practice math. Oh. I was much nicer to my parents by high school, but then I started doing some other bad stuff. Oh no. Well, you turned out alright. How long was it before they found out the first time? Ooh, that's a good question. I actually don't remember how long it was. I feel like it must have been like a month. Probably a month. And then my dad found out. She hacked into the Matrix. I would climb on walls like Spider-Man. I used to jump off of my coffee table and pretend I was Sailor Moon. Okay, but what were you using your delinquent computer time for? I think what I was doing was practicing typing so I could type really fast, and I was playing Flash games. Did you guys ever play Flash games? There were a lot of those when I was younger. And then learning how to make like little websites. That was something I was trying to do as well. She was planning for her future Yu debut. Everything I've done has built up to this moment of becoming Yu Cosmos. When I was When I was reading this, a thought came into my mind, but I don't remember it anymore. William Tell game, where if you messed up, the kid would get decapitated. Oh gosh. You're terminally addicted to RuneScape and MapleStory. Oh my gosh, I was so obsessed with MapleStory too. Flash games were my childhood for sure. Play them at school. Yes, me too. I would sneak on to like the computers at the library to play. I was always pretty upfront with most things I did. Yeah, I snuck a brownie. I didn't sleep and play games until 1. Hey, as long as it seems like you have a pretty good relationship with your parents then. If you feel like it's safe enough for you to be upfront with the things that you did. My relationship with my parents isn't like that. I don't really tell them much. Yeah, I don't tell my parents a lot. But it's interesting because my mom will always be like, oh, I know you so well. Like, I know you more than anyone in this world. And when she says that, I think to myself, I'm pretty sure you don't know me that well. There are so many things I haven't told you before. Trust is key, yes, exactly. I hope one day, if I ever have a child, I'll be able to build like a trusting and safe relationship with them, so that if they ever feel like they've done something, they can feel comfortable to tell me. Me and my sister used to sneakily take snacks from the kitchen and store them in our rooms. I used to like store all my Halloween candy and hide it from my mom. Just because you live with someone for a long time doesn't mean you truly know who they are. Yes, I mean, I would say that's the case for my I would say that's the case for with my parents and I. Oh, yes, please don't spam, please don't spam. I tried telling my parents stuff when I was a kid, but they never cared about anything that was important to me, so eventually I gave up. I know, right? Isn't that so sad? It's so sad. I just want to give all the kids in the world who were neglected a hug. I think my parents or my mom probably still views me as a kid, because every time I chat with them, every time I chat with my parents or my mom, she's always like, oh, you've never gone through hardship before, you know? Like, you're still so immature, how will you, like, you don't know anything about the world, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, mother, what are you talking about? Alright, take care, Thick Skin. Thanks for stopping by. You have a motherly aura, do I? I think a lot of times parents are too busy to actually spend time to know and understand their kids. That's true, that's true. I guess, yeah, it's difficult. You have to be emotionally available. they'd be like, back in my day when I was your age, I did this and this. Yeah. Classic, classic. I feel like I can see myself potentially saying that even though I don't want to in the future. I hope I don't though. I hope I don't. I mean, I probably will. Maybe I'll say it in like a troll kind of way. Back in my day. Back in my day. Alright, I think that is it for today's stream, everybody. I just had those 3 stories to tell you. Hopefully you feel relaxed. I'll say it while kicking their butt at Yu-Gi-Oh! I love that, I love that. I hope you I hope you achieve that. Back in my day, VTubers were only in 2D. You think one day all VTubers will be 3D? Could you do more ASMR on YouTube in the future? I could, if you guys like it. I'm not sure if ASMR is all that popular. Wouldn't say I was honest with them because of a good relationship. Things were complicated. I see. Then you're a pretty honest and upfront person then. That's good. Yeah. My relationship with my parents is also quite complicated. Yuya, when are we getting you an ending screen? I should get one, huh? I really should. The stream was very nice to listen to. Thank you. Yay, I'm glad. Thank you for listening. Thank you. It makes me really happy that you enjoyed it. Okay, so on Friday, I'm going to attempt to get a Switch hooked up. I was able to secure a Switch. And I'm gonna try to play a game. I haven't decided what game I want to play, but hopefully it'll be a fun game on the Switch. And yeah. Alright. So I hope to see you all there on Friday. You can watch me game. Gamer Yu in the house. Alright. Yes, more Yu on Friday. Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there on Friday. Animal Crossing? Maybe. Animal Crossing is... I'll have to think about it. Alright. Have a good evening or good day wherever you are, everybody. Goodbye. Wait, I'll do my fade again. Do my fade. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Hope you have sweet dreams. Have sweet dreams tonight. Good night. Bye-bye.